We live in an age where everyone has a voice and everyone feels entitled to use it. It doesn't matter who you are, what you create, or what you say. The moment you step out and share something with the world, you'll be judged. They'll say you're not good enough. They'll say you're fake. They'll say you shouldn't talk about this, or that you don't have the right to speak about that. And even if you pour your heart into something sincere, there will always be someone ready to tear it down. And that hurts. Let's be honest, it hurts more than we want to admit. Because behind every piece of work we share, there's a part of ourselves. A thought, a belief, a story we care about. And when someone criticizes it, it feels like they're criticizing us. But then, I remembered a line from Marcus Aurelius. If anyone can refute me, show me I'm wrong, I will gladly change. For I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone. That one sentence completely changed how I see criticism. Marcus wasn't afraid of being wrong. He wasn't afraid of being challenged. Because for a Stoic, criticism isn't an attack. It's a test. It's an opportunity to grow stronger, to learn, to practice humility. The Stoics didn't waste time trying to defend their egos. They used criticism the way a blacksmith uses fire, to forge something harder, sharper, and more resilient. And maybe that's exactly what we need to learn in this modern world of endless opinions. Not how to silence the noise, but how to stay calm in the middle of it. Not how to avoid criticism, but how to turn it into clarity. Because in the end, what truly matters isn't what people say about you, it's how you respond. So in this video, we'll explore how to deal with criticism, like a Stoic. We'll look at why criticism hurts so much, what the Stoic philosophers taught about it, how to practice their mindset in real life, and finally, how to transform all that noise into peace, freedom, and inner strength. If you've ever felt crushed by harsh comments, if you've ever held back your voice because you were afraid of judgment, then this is for you. Because the truth is, criticism isn't the enemy. Your reaction to it is. And once you learn how to master that reaction, you'll find a kind of peace that no one can take away. Let's begin. Part 1. Why criticism hurts. Criticism stings. No matter how mature or self-aware we think we are, it still cuts a little when someone disapproves of us. We read a negative comment, and our stomach tightens. We hear someone question our ability, and suddenly our mind starts racing, replaying their words again and again. But have you ever wondered why it hurts so much? The pain doesn't come from the words themselves. Words are just vibrations in the air, black symbols on a screen. What truly hurts is what we attach to those words, the meaning we give them. We hurt because we take it personally, because we've tied our sense of worth to how others see us. We start believing that our value depends on approval, on validation, on being liked. We've been conditioned this way since childhood. We learn to crave praise, to seek good grades, applause, and likes. We learned that being accepted means being safe, and being criticized means rejection, isolation, failure. So when someone says, "You're not good enough," it hits something ancient in our brain, a deep, instinctive fear of being cast out from the tribe. Back then, being rejected meant death. Now, it just means feeling small, but our nervous system doesn't know the difference. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The Stoics understood something profound. Criticism is an external event. It belongs to the outside world, not to you. Your reaction, your judgment, your feelings about it, that's what's within your control. In other words, the problem isn't that people criticize you. The problem is that you believe what they say, or you let it shake your sense of who you are. Seneca said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." Think about that. Most of the suffering we experience doesn't come from what's actually happening, but from how we imagine it. When someone criticizes you, they speak a few words. That's it. But then your mind takes those words, expands them, exaggerates them, and turns them into a story. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I should stop. The wound isn't from the outside, it's self-inflicted. The Stoics would say that our distress comes not from the criticism, but from the judgment we attach to it. It's not they said something bad. It's they said something bad, and that means I'm not enough. That's the thought that hurts. Epictetus used to tell his students that the only thing truly under their control was their mind. You can't control what people think or what they say, or how they interpret your actions. But you can control how you interpret them. He said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of their significance." So when someone criticizes you, pause for a moment. Look carefully at what's really happening. It's not the words that hurt. It's your belief about what those words mean. Let's imagine a stranger calls you lazy. If you know deep down that you've been working hard, would it hurt? Probably not. You just shrug and think, they don't know me. But if there's a part of you that secretly fears you're not doing enough, then suddenly those words hit right where it hurts. That's why criticism can be so revealing. It doesn't only show what other people think of us. It shows what we think of ourselves. It exposes our insecurities. It shows where our self-image is fragile. The Stoics didn't see this as a bad thing. They saw it as a mirror, a chance to understand themselves better. When something hurts, it points to where the work needs to be done. So instead of reacting with anger or shame, you can respond with curiosity. Why does this bother me? What belief of mine is being challenged? Is there truth here I can learn from? That's how a Stoic transforms pain into wisdom. Because here's the truth, no matter who you are, you will be criticized. If you do something meaningful, people will talk. If you stay silent, people will still talk. If you succeed, they'll find reasons to bring you down. If you fail, they'll say they saw it coming. You can't control the world's opinions. You can only control your peace. And that peace begins the moment you stop giving power to their words. It's not easy. It takes practice. But with time, you begin to notice something. The comments that once haunted you start to lose their weight. You hear the same words, but they don't sting the same way. They pass through you, like wine through open hands. And when you reach that point, when you can hear criticism and remain calm, you'll realize something beautiful. That's not numbness. That's strength. The Stoics didn't seek to be emotionless. They sought to be unshaken, to care deeply but not to crumble, to listen but not to absorb everything, to remain kind even when misunderstood. That's why Marcus Aurelius said, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." In the end, the pain of criticism teaches us where we're still holding on to the wrong things. Our image, our pride, our need to be right, our hunger for approval. And once we begin to let those go, criticism loses its teeth. Because it's not the critic who defines your worth. It's you. Part 2. The Stoic view on criticism. The Stoics saw criticism in a completely different light than most of us do today. To them, it wasn't a threat to self-esteem, it was information. It wasn't something to defend against. It was something to examine calmly, like a scientist observing data. Because what's a criticism, really? It's just someone's judgment, an opinion formed by their own mind, shaped by their experiences, values, and insecurities. It's not the truth. It's a perspective. When someone says, "You're wrong," or "You're not good enough," they're not describing you. They're describing the world as they see it. Epictetus once said, "When someone criticizes you, remember, they only describe themselves." At first, that might sound defensive, but it's not meant to be. It's a reminder of perspective. Every comment, every judgment, every opinion comes from their lens. When a person calls you arrogant, maybe they're projecting their own insecurity about confidence. When someone says you're too quiet, maybe they're uncomfortable with silence. When someone calls you fake, maybe they've forgotten how to be genuine themselves. People see the world not as it is, but as they are. So, when you're criticized, pause and remember, this is data. It might contain truth. It might not. But it always reveals something either about you or about them. The Stoic approach is to test that data calmly. To ask, is there any truth here that can help me grow? If yes, take it. If not, let it pass. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I shall gladly change. For I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone." There's something deeply powerful in that humility. He was the most powerful man in the world, the Emperor of Rome, yet he welcomed correction. because to him, truth mattered more than ego. Imagine if we lived that way today, if we could hear criticism not as an attack, but as a chance to align closer with reality. To say, "Thank you for pointing that out," instead of, "How dare you say that?" That shift from ego to curiosity is the essence of Stoicism. Now, does that mean we should accept all criticism? Of course not. The Stoics were rational, not naive. They understood that some people criticize not out of care or truth, but out of envy, frustration, or ignorance. That's why the Stoics taught discernment, the ability to separate signal from noise. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that others act out of their own misunderstanding. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, "The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil." He didn't say that with bitterness, but with understanding. He expected imperfection, so he wouldn't be surprised by it. When criticism came, he met it with composure, not outrage. That's the Stoic strength, not indifference, but clarity. Seneca put it another way: "What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears." He was reminding us, life is full of imperfections, from others and from yourselves. Criticism is part of that chaos. So instead of resenting it, we can use it to train our character. If the feedback is fair, use it to improve. If it's false, use it to practice patience. Either way, you win. Because Stoicism isn't about being right, it's about being in control. Not of the world, but of yourself. Let's take an example. Suppose someone says, "Your work is shallow." The instant emotional reaction might be defensiveness. No, it's not. But the Stoic response is curiosity. Why do they think that? Do they see something I don't? If you find even a grain of truth, you can refine your craft. If you find none, then their opinion changes nothing. That's the quiet power of Stoicism. You're never powerless. Every insult, every criticism becomes a tool for self-awareness or self-discipline. And here's something beautiful about this mindset. The moment you stop fearing criticism, you become free to act from principle. Because fear of judgment is one of the greatest chains on human behavior. It makes us conform. It makes us play small. It makes us seek comfort over authenticity. But the Stoic doesn't live for applause. He lives according to reason and virtue. He does what's right even if others misunderstand. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." How true that is. We say we love ourselves, yet we let strangers dictate how we feel. We spend our lives trying to prove our worth to people who barely know us. The Stoics would shake their heads at this, because they knew no opinion can add or subtract from your true value. You are who you are not because of what people say, but because of what you do and what you choose to believe. Criticism, therefore, is just another moment, another external event in a world full of them. You can't stop it, but you can decide what it means. To the average person, it's a wound. To the Stoic, it's training. Every harsh word becomes a chance to strengthen your patience, your humility, your clarity. Each insult is a reminder to stay centered, not to drift with the emotions of the crowd. And that's the paradox. The more criticism you face, the calmer you can become, if you face it through the lens of Stoicism. Because then, you no longer live for their approval. You live for the truth. Part 3. How to deal with criticism like a Stoic. We've talked about why criticism hurts, and how the Stoics saw it as something neutral, even useful. But philosophy isn't just theory. It's meant to be lived. So let's explore what it actually looks like to deal with criticism like a Stoic. How do you respond when someone attacks you, misunderstands you, or questions your worth? Here are 4 timeless practices that the Stoics would recommend, habits that can transform criticism from something painful into something powerful. 1. Pause before reacting. When someone criticizes you, especially online, your first instinct might be to respond immediately, to defend yourself, to correct them, to prove them wrong. That's the ego talking, and the ego always wants the last word. But the Stoics trained themselves to do something different. they paused. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Don't be overheated in speech or in action. The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." To pause means to reclaim control of your mind. You take a breath, you observe what's happening inside you, before you decide how to respond. This moment of pause is everything. It's the difference between reaction and response, between emotion and reason. When you stop, you give your rational mind time to return. You let the emotional storm pass before you speak. Epictetus said, "Don't let your emotions be the puppet master." So when someone attacks you, whether it's a stranger online or a coworker in real life, just breathe. Feel the irritation rise, but don't feed it. Notice your heartbeat, your thoughts, your desire to strike back, and let them drift away. Once you're calm, you can decide how to act, or whether it's even worth acting at all. Because silence, too, can be a powerful answer. 2. Separate the message from the tone. Not every criticism is delivered kindly. Sometimes the message might be true, but the tone makes it hard to hear. The Stoic doesn't get distracted by tone. He looks beneath the words to see if there's something useful hiding there. Someone might say, "You're so unorganized." Instead of reacting to the insult, a Stoic might ask, "Is there truth in that? Have I been disorganized lately?" You see the difference? It's not about who said it or how they said it. It's about whether it's true. Because the truth doesn't become less true just because it's said rudely. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." So when someone criticizes you, focus on the content, not the emotion. If there's wisdom inside their words, take it. If not, leave it. Don't waste energy judging their delivery. Use that energy to sharpen your own understanding. That's what it means to practice emotional detachment. Not to feel less, but to see more clearly. 3. Reframe criticism as training. To a Stoic, every difficulty is an opportunity to grow stronger. Obstacles aren't roadblocks. They're part of the path itself. As Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "The obstacle is the way." So when someone criticizes you, don't see it as a threat. See it as training. Every harsh word becomes a workout for your mind. A chance to strengthen your patience, your humility, your focus. If you can hear negative feedback and stay calm, if you can listen without taking it personally, you've already won. Because it's not about winning the argument, it's about mastering yourself. Think of it like building muscle. You don't grow stronger without resistance. You don't grow wiser without challenge. Criticism is that resistance. It tests your ego, your composure, your ability to choose reason over emotion. So instead of thinking, "Why are they saying this?" try asking, "What can I learn from this?" That shift alone can turn pain into progress. You stop being a victim of opinion and start becoming a student of life. 4. Protect your peace, not your ego. Sometimes the wisest response is no response at all. There's a difference between defending your values and defending your ego. One is necessary. The other is a waste of energy. Epictetus said, "If someone speaks badly of you, live so that no one will believe it." That's the Stoic way. You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain yourself to every critic. Just keep living in alignment with your principles and let your actions do the talking. Because if what they say is false, it will fade. And if it's true, you'll grow from it. Either way, there's peace. The Stoics called this apatheia, not apathy, but a state of serene equanimity. A calmness that comes from knowing your worth isn't up for debate. You protect your peace by not letting every opinion invade your mind. Not every comment deserves your attention. Not every battle deserves your energy. Remember, silence doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes silence is mastery. Marcus wrote, "The best answer to anger is silence." When you rise above the noise, you don't just protect your mind. You send a message louder than words, that your peace is not for sale. A Stoic practice to try. Next time someone criticizes you, try this simple 3-step Stoic practice. 1. Pause, breathe before reacting. Feel the emotion, but don't act on it. 2. Examine, ask yourself, is there truth here? What can I learn? 3. Release if it's false or unhelpful. Let it go completely. Repeat this every time you face judgment, online, at work, in relationships. You'll start to notice something shift inside you. What once triggered you will start to feel lighter. The words won't stick anymore. They'll pass through you like wind. And you'll realize you've built something unshakable. Inner discipline. Because being stoic isn't about never feeling hurt. It's about not being ruled by that hurt. It's about keeping your center when the world tries to pull you off balance. To live like this is to live free. Free from the constant need to defend yourself. Free from the fear of being misunderstood. Free from the endless cycle of seeking approval and fearing rejection. When you master how to respond to criticism, you master one of the hardest parts of being human. The need to be seen, accepted, and approved of. And in that mastery, you'll find peace. Not the kind that depends on silence from others, but the kind that thrives even in the noise. Part 4. Inner Peace and Freedom. When you begin to see criticism through the eyes of a Stoic, something extraordinary happens. You stop fighting ghosts. You stop trying to change the unchangeable. You stop letting every opinion, every careless comment, pull you off center. You realize that peace was never about controlling the world. It was about mastering your reaction to it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Reject your sense of injury, and the injury itself disappears." That line holds one of the deepest truths of Stoicism. You cannot always control what people say, but you can always choose whether or not to feel wounded by it. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to stand calmly in the tide. The fortress within. The Stoics often compared the mind to a fortress, a stronghold that no one can breach unless you open the gates from the inside. Criticism can only hurt you if you let it in. The moment you take it personally, you've opened the gate. But if you learn to hold your ground, to listen, to evaluate, to accept or reject calmly, you remain untouchable. That's not arrogance. That's sovereignty. Marcus called it the inner citadel. It's the part of you that stays still while the world spins around. When someone criticizes you and you don't react, you're not ignoring reality. You're asserting control over it. You're saying, "I choose peace over ego." And that choice, repeated over and over again, becomes the foundation of real freedom. The power of detachment. The Stoics practiced what's called the dichotomy of control, the ability to separate what's within your control from what's not. Other people's opinions? Not in your control. Your response to those opinions? Entirely yours. Most people reverse that. They try to control what others think, while neglecting what's truly theirs, their own mind. That's why so many people feel anxious and drained. They spend their energy trying to fix the external world, instead of mastering the internal one. But when you flip that, when you start focusing on what's within, the noise fades. Epictetus said, "There is only one way to happiness, to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will." Criticism is one of those things. You can't stop people from misunderstanding you. You can't make everyone like you. You can't correct every false story told about you. But you can live in such a way that those stories don't matter. And that's freedom, the freedom not to be swayed by every opinion, not to need validation to feel whole, not to collapse every time someone disapproves. Freedom is the ability to remain yourself, even under judgment. Turning criticism into clarity. Every time you're criticized, you have a choice. You can take it as an insult or you can treat it as a mirror. If the criticism is valid, it's a gift. It helps you see your blind spots. It shows you where you can grow. If it's false, it's still a gift, because it gives you a chance to strengthen your composure, your patience, your discernment. In both cases, you win. So in a way, criticism isn't something to avoid, it's something to welcome. It's the universe giving you feedback either about yourself or about the person speaking. And when you see it that way, you can begin to smile when people doubt you. Not out of arrogance, but out of understanding. Because you know that every comment, kind or cruel, is just another teacher. The Stoics turned every obstacle into a lesson, every setback into a step forward. Criticism, too, can be part of that training ground. If they're right, you learn. If they're wrong, you strengthen your mind. Either way, you grow. Living above the noise. Imagine living in a world where every voice is shouting. Online arguments, opinions, outrage, judgment. Now imagine being in that same world, but standing quietly in the middle of it, calm, grounded, unmoved. That's what Stoic peace feels like. It doesn't come from isolation, it comes from inner stillness. You still hear the noise, you still see the chaos, but it doesn't control you anymore. You can walk through the world's opinions like a mountain through clouds, present, but untouched. Marcus Aurelius said, "A wise man is not disturbed by the opinion of fools." That line isn't meant to insult others. It's a reminder not to give your energy away so easily. Not everyone's words deserve to shape your reality. You can listen to criticism, but you don't have to believe it. You can understand it, but you don't have to absorb it. You can acknowledge others' voices without losing the sound of your own. The final lesson. At the end of his life, Epictetus said something that sums up the Stoic attitude perfectly. No man is free who is not master of himself. Freedom isn't about escaping other people's opinions. It's about no longer being enslaved by them. When you stop needing validation, you become unstoppable. When you stop fearing criticism, you become unshakable. And when you stop reacting to everything around you, you finally begin to live, truly, peacefully, freely. So the next time someone criticizes you, remember this: you don't need to defend yourself to everyone. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. You don't need to fight every battle that ego wants you to fight. Just breathe, observe, learn if there's something to learn, and let the rest go. Because when you can stand calmly in the face of judgment, when you can remain kind even when misunderstood, you embody the essence of Stoicism itself. The quiet strength of one who needs no applause to know his worth. Stoic reflection. One day you'll look back at all the words that once hurt you, and they'll feel weightless. Because you'll realize they never really had power over you. The pain was never in their words. It was in your belief that those words defined you. But you've grown. You've seen through the illusion. And now you understand what the Stoics meant when they spoke of peace, not as an escape from the world, but as the ability to live within it, clear, calm, and free. So keep creating, keep sharing, keep walking your path. Let your work speak louder than your defenses. Let your calmness speak louder than your critics. And let your peace, your quiet, unshakable peace, be the most powerful answer you ever give.